Tucker's broad body pinning me beneath him. I shifted on the hard pew, for my body was achy with need, a need I had never had fulfilled, and yet I was willing to slake it with the Landry brothers. Late that night I thought of them unbidden. Just the night before, I'd lifted up the hem of my nightdress, parted my thighs, and touched myself. I thought of their large hands and imagined it was their fingers slipping inside me, sliding over my wet folds. I'd climaxed, my body tense and awash in pleasure, as I whispered their names into the darkness. No, this was no girlhood fancy. Not any longer. As if they felt my heated gaze on them, they turned their heads and stared at me. Me! Gabe's dark eyes pinned me in place as Tucker's dropped to my mouth. It was blatant, and my heart skipped a beat. Could they see what I'd been thinking as if it were written on my face? Did they know I wanted them almost desperately? Could they sense I used them for my most illicit fantasies? When Tucker winked, I gasped. Hoping the sound wasn't too loud, my fingers flew to cover my lips, just in case. James, who sat beside me, glanced my way. I offered my brother a reassuring smile, as everyone clapped for the newlyweds walking down the aisle. "That might be you soon enough," James said over the noise, patting the back of my hand. For a second I thought he was referring to the Landrys, but then I remembered the truth. No, the lie. The lie I'd started at the picnic. I'd only returned from Butte the day before. James hadn't allowed me to travel alone, so I'd waited after graduation for the Smith family, a local family in town, to offer me escort. I realized if instead of waiting, I'd gone by myself as I'd wanted, I would have been away from Butte and avoided the entire mess with Tennessee. I wouldn't have had to lie, wouldn't have to fear for my friend or even James. Now I had to return to Butte, with money, somehow. Besides Christmas, it was the first time back in the 2 years since James sent me away to school. At 17, I'd been a little less ladylike than he wished, considering I'd been raised on a ranch with him serving the role of parent. He'd wanted me to attract a husband, but I knew my scar would deter all men from courting me. Instead, the school had kept me hidden away from any prospect. Because of this, I frowned at James for his comment, then remembered. The lie. At the picnic, the ladies my age had gathered around the baked goods table and spoken of their new husbands or beaux. Unlike them, I lived in a sheltered existence at school, at James' insistence, and no man except the piano teacher had stepped inside the building, let alone courted me. I could not speak about a man of my own. But I needed a reason to go back to Butte so swiftly after coming home. A beau would keep my connection to the town, give me a reason to eagerly return and to then save Tennessee. When the crisis was resolved, I could just state that I had ended the arrangement. No one would be the wiser, and I would never have to go back to the town again. With the ladies twittering on incessantly about how happy they were, I told the lie. A man in Butte. They looked at me first with wide surprise then happiness. I was the plain one, the one with no mother, no sisters. A plain face with an unattractive scar. I wore my hair in a simple braid, wore simple clothes. I was shy. The school had taught me how to play a lovely concerto and to plan a meal for 15. But men? I had no idea what I was doing. I'd been on the periphery of the group until that moment, but they'd pulled me into the fold eagerly, asking after the man I'd snared. I'd assumed they would offer a passing response of "that's nice," then be done. I hadn't expected them to be so pleased for me, so curious about him. It was amazing how the little fib took on a life of its own. It had worked its way across the picnic, and by the time the sun set, everyone in town, including my brother, believed I had a beau named Aaron Wakefield. My excuse to return to Butte was well established. It felt bittersweet to see James so happy for me, for he only wanted the best where I was concerned, specifically to see me well married. His happiness, though, was unfounded and based on a lie, and I ached to tell him the truth, that my friend was being held for ransom and I had to deliver the money. But he would hate me soon enough for stealing from him. Lying about a beau was trivial in comparison. I ached to tell him about Mr. Grimsby, but he would ride to Butte and threaten him. I'd rather have had him hate me for stealing than be shot by Mr. Grimsby. Tennessee's father.